Hi, it's Chris Watkin here, joined by one of the biggest names in the letting agency industry, Sally Lawson. Thanks for joining me today, Sally.
You're welcome.
Sally, you're pretty big on making letting agents realise that they can't do everything, that they really should be outsourcing things in their agency so they can be better agents. Why are letting agents not able to let go of those sort of jobs? Talk to me.
Well, it's fascinating actually, Chris, because we've worked with so many letting agents over the last 10 years, and what we see is that they are so busy running around doing so many different things, and yet when there's something new that comes on they have to do, what they feel they need to do is totally learn everything about that thing and become experts in that thing, as well as legislation, compliance, marketing, staff management, HR, you name it. The list is endless. But the challenge is, what we're finding is that they just become average at everything. And in the end, what happens is they're holding the business back because they're not brilliant at what they need to be brilliant at.
Where do you think that perfectionism or wanting to be the best, if you ask an estate agent, a valuer, all they want is the deals. They don't give a monkeys about being perfect of everything. Where does that come from?
I actually think with letting agents it's a little bit different. I don't think it's perfectionism. I actually think with letting agencies it's more to do with cost. And I think it's the margins are so tiny in the letting agency. We're at a very low percentage here in the UK, around 11.9% according to the Plimsoll report, which is minuscule really. And so they haven't got a lot of cash to play with. And so rather than looking at how to optimize and grow revenue, what they do is they try to save costs by doing everything themselves. And particularly more recently, we're seeing letting agents trying to be experts at Facebook ads and making videos. I know you talk a lot about making videos, and they're doing all the tech, they're doing the editing, they're doing the videographer, they're doing the sound work. They're really focusing on making sure they understand all the legal legislation and compliance, which they should do, and they need to do all of that. But do they really need to be a YouTube expert? And I think it's important that we start looking at how we can outsource to other experts some of the stuff we can outsource. And particularly now we're getting so many companies like ViewBook can do the viewings for you, and there's other companies that can find data for you. I know you do some great blog writing and things like that. So you can find so many people do so many things. Why do we need to do everything ourselves? What can we get off our desks so that we can spend our time as letting agents focusing on the important stuff?
But it's almost chicken and the egg, isn't it? You need the money, don't you, to pay for it? I mean, with 11% margins, there isn't much left.
Exactly.
I mean, what do you think probably is, if there's letting agents watching this today, what would you say the first thing they should be seriously looking at outsourcing?
It depends on the state of your business where you're at. So if you're a very small company, and you've probably got, I'll give an example of a conversation I had only last week. There was a guy, he's got 1.5 staff. And he was asking the question, should he outsource inventories, inspections, check-ins and check-outs, or should he save himself that £30 per inventory and do it himself? My answer to that was, well, depending on how your business is operating, my advice would be outsource that. Because if you've only got 1.5 staff, they need to be focused on building the business. They need to be focusing on generating valuations. They need to be focusing on winning more customers, getting those higher value deals into the business. So sometimes people look at the actual cost in the spreadsheet, but they don't actually look at the secondary cost, which is the loss. I'll give an example. It's a great one, Chris, actually. It was going back a little while now. It was around 2011, I think it was, but one of our earlier franchisees, and she was Mrs. Detail, very attention to detail.
Isn't that most letting agents say? They're very detail orientated.
Very much so,
and
yeah.
They hate criticism.
They
do you think that could be another reason why they don't outsource?
It could be, but let me just share this story because this is fascinating. It was a lady, and she was doing the inventories, and this one particular inventory, big house, fully furnished, took her nearly 7 hours to do this inventory. Now at that time, she could have outsourced that for around £40 to somebody else. And I said to her, why did you do that inventory? I'm not spending £40. She said, I'm saving that money, that's going on my bottom line. I said, well, okay. Now this particular lady was absolutely awesome at prospecting. It was her key skill. She was a cold caller. She was brilliant. And I said to her, now let's just have a think. What could you have done in that 7 hours? Could you have made more than £40 in that 7 hours? And that was the light bulb moment, because think about it. Even if just for one of those 7 hours she hit the phones and was cold calling, she also did a lot of buy-to-let and refurbishments and HMO conversions. The amount of money she could have made in that pretty much nearly a day, 7 hours, ridiculous. I mean, it was an extreme inventory. They're not all that long, of course. They don't normally take that time. But think of the money she could have made. And I think that's an equitable cost that people don't look at. They look at the cost on the bottom line. They don't look at what they could be doing with that time. So really what we're saying to people is just think about, does it make more sense to pay that 30 quid, 40 quid, or to get someone to do this, that, and the other so that you can concentrate on building your business?
It's interesting. I was always told that you look at what you do almost if you're wondering what to get rid of, and see what you're doing every hour, which is a £10 an hour job, £100 an hour, and £1,000 an hour. I know I'm teaching grades of cakes here, but surely the amount of agents are watching this who are doing £10 an hour jobs, that what you pay yourself, you wouldn't pay someone what you pay yourself to do those sort of jobs. What's the best way? Is it really a case of just every hour just writing down what you've done and then reflecting back?
Well, here's a great analogy. One of the things I like to say to people is, how much do you want to earn? And one of the biggest gripes in letting agents I see amongst the SME market is that they don't earn enough. So a lot of letting agents are paying themselves. It seems to be, from my talking to people, around 30,000 a year. That's what they're earning.
Yeah.
And I say, okay, so how much are you worth? Well, I'm worth loads more than that. Because I'm running the business, I'm taking all the responsibility. Brilliant. Tell me what you did last week. I was sorting out the keys. I had to fill in for Sarah, who was away in the management department. I was doing the accounts, and I was answering the phones, and I was doing viewings, and I was doing whatever. I go, okay, if I'm your business and I'm a person, how much are you worth to me as the business? And when you break it down like that, if you're on the tools, on the phone, doing the £10 an hour task, how much are you worth, Chris? You're worth £10 an hour. As a business owner, you're exactly right. You get rid of those £10 an hour tasks and you pay someone to do those things so that you can do the £100, £250 an hour tasks, like creating a new marketing campaign, making some promo videos, getting out there, promoting your business, going to the local networking events, canvassing, whatever it is, not canvassing as in hitting the phones, but making affiliate connections. You need to get out there and do the things that are really going to push your business forward as a business owner, rather than doing the £10 an hour task.
How do you let go? Because a lot of these letting agents really do like to be in control and would fear the criticism of someone not being as perfect as them.
It's a big problem. I think one of the key things when we're talking about this to SMEs is that they know they should. They've heard all the videos, they've seen all the motivational stuff, they've heard all the experts say, let go, get off the tools. But how do we get off the tools? It's one of the most commonly asked questions. And what I've identified from talking to people in my experience is the reason they won't let go is because they don't know what else to do the other side. So what I found is when people can see that they can make an extra 100,000 a year by setting up an acquisition service, or they can make another £50,000 a year by starting to do full-scale chargeable refurbishments, or they could make an extra £50,000 a year by restructuring the services by focusing on this, all of a sudden they've got a reason to let go. And that seems to be the big difference. So I think rather than focusing on telling people to let go, we should start focusing on telling people what they can do the other side, that are the £100 an hour tasks that can start to build and grow their business, because that seems to motivate people to move forward.
And I know we said we wouldn't talk about it, but I'm sorry, I'm going to have to bring this up. You do teach this in your Agent Rainmaker series, don't you?
We do. We talk about this a lot. 11.9%, Chris. I mean, it's just really, really sad that as an industry, we are so behind all the countries in if you go over to America and even in Europe, they charge way more than us. They make so much more profit than us. And yet we seem to be working at 1,000 miles an hour. It is really something that needs to be changed.
Well, we can talk about a bit more of that in another video. Boys and girls, Sally has not paid me to do this, but Sally, I've known Sally for 5 or 6 years. So many of my clients have been on Sally's courses, and Kate as well. And if you adopt the system, it's absolutely fantastic. As I said, I've not been paid to say it. It's just that everyone that says that adopted it, you've got to adopt the system, has come back raving fans. So thank you for your time today.
You're welcome. Thank you, Chris.